Welcome to the Jayda InStitches show. Back in 2016, we designed an ugly Christmas sweater here on the channel, and part of that, we used a tree shape, a big tree applique, to decorate for part of the ugly sweater. Well, we turned it into a little mini tree pillow, and there's a free pattern for this over on the Pattern Workshop page of our website. So if you haven't yet had a chance to check that out and download the pattern, we'll put a link to that in the description box down below, and also the pinned comment. It's a really fast and simple little pattern, and it's really cute. Well, today we are going to show you how to turn this into a big fluffy pillow version. You can use a size 5 or a size 6 weight yarn, so bulky or super bulky, and an 8mm hook, and it will upsize to quite a large tree pillow. This is a size 5 bulky, and if you used a size 6 bulky, it would be even bigger than this. So, very simple pattern. In fact, it's so easy, you could probably make one today. So let's grab our hooks, we'll grab our yarn, we'll head on over to the craft table, and we will stitch up a big fluffy tree or a little mini tree pillow pattern together. In order to make our stuffed trees, for the larger version, you're going to want around 150 yards of a size 5 or a size 6 bulky or super bulky weight yarn in green, and around 20 yards of a size 5 or a size 6 weight yarn in brown. If you don't have a size 5 or a size 6 yarn in either color, you can always double up 2 strands of a size 4 medium weight yarn, hold 2 together, and you're going to want 150 yards times 2 if you're going to do it with the green, 20 yards times 2 if you're going to do it with the brown, and I'll be doing it with the brown for the trunk for this tree. You're going to want some stuffing. I'm going to be using some old crazy yarn that I am not going to be putting into other projects, so that's going to be my stuffing for today's project. A pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and the hook for the large tree is an 8mm, also known as an L or an 11 in the US. If you're making a small tree, you need about 75 to 100 yards of a size 4 medium weight yarn in green, and around 10 yards of a size 4 medium weight yarn in brown. This is all acrylic, so is this, and a 5mm hook. So that's for the little one, but we're making the big one today. So big hook, thicker yarn, and here we go. You're going to be making 2 identical sides. So I've got side 1 made already, and the tree itself is 21 rows, and the little trunk here is built on top of it later. It's only 3 rows. We're using the half double crochet stitch for nearly the entire thing. There's 1 little row of single crochet right at the bottom. So this is a really simple pattern. It's sort of consists of 2 rows. Every odd row is a regular straight half double crochet row. Every even row is an increase row. And on an increase row, we half double crochet twice into the first stitch of the row, half double crochet across, and half double crochet twice into the last stitch of the row. And every time we do that, we will increase the stitch count by 2. So that happens on every even row. And if you have trouble keeping track, then you might want to have a stitch marker just to mark your even rows so that you know when you start and stop them. You want to make sure you're doing 2 half double crochets on either end. And that's how we increase, and that's how we get this lovely little tree shape. Okay, let's grab our green yarn. If you're using 2 strands of a size 4 medium weight, remember you're holding them both together. Otherwise, you're going to be using 1 strand at a time. We're going to chain 5 to begin. So you want 5 chains into the second chain from the hook. So we skip the first chain into the second chain. We're going to half double crochet. We're going to half double crochet into the remaining 3 chains. So at the end of row 1, we're going to have 4 stitches, and we can weave in our little tails later. So that's 4 half double crochet stitches at the end of row 1. Chain 1 at the end of every row. That's a turning chain, but we don't count it. It's just to allow us to turn, and it brings our work up to the height we want to be at. Row 2 is an even row. Row 2 is an increase row. So into that first stitch, we're going to half double crochet 2 times. Half double crochet into each of the middle 2 stitches. and into the last stitch. And when we're using a half double crochet and a single turning chain, sometimes the last stitch of the row wants to curve down the edge a little bit. So remember not to miss it. This is the last stitch of the row, and we're going to work 2 half double crochets into it because this is an increase row. So every even row is an increase row. We have gone from 4 stitches in row 1 to 6 stitches in row 2. We're going to chain 1, turn, chain 1 and turn at the end of every row. Row 3 is an odd row, and odd rows are just straight half double crochet. So we're going to half double crochet into each stitch all the way across. We are not increasing on the odd rows, so whatever your stitch count was at the end of an even row, the next odd row will be the same. At the end of row 2 we had 6 stitches, and at the end of row 3 we have 6 stitches. So 6 stitches at the end of row 3. Chain 1, turn. Row 4 is an increase row. So we work 2 half double crochets into the first stitch. We half double crochet into each stitch all the way across. When you get to the last stitch of the row, and remember it's often pulled down a little bit, don't miss it, you work 2 half double crochets into that last stitch. And we've gone from a stitch count of 6 to a stitch count of 8. An increase on one side, an increase on the other, and just straight half double crochet in the middle. So at the end of row 5, you'll have 8 stitches. Row 5, or I should say row 4, row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. At the end of row 4, you'll have 8 stitches. Chain 1, turn. At the end of row 5, you'll still have 8 stitches because row 5 is an odd row. We don't increase on odd rows. We just half double crochet in every stitch all the way across. And that's all you need to know for this little pattern. You're going to work a half double crochet in every stitch across on every odd row. At the end of every row, you'll chain 1, turn. Every even row, and we're heading into row 6 here, every even row is an increase row. So you work 2 half double crochet in the first and last stitch of the row, but you just half double crochet as normally in each stitch across in the middle. Every 2 rows, your stitch count will increase by 2 stitches because on an increase row, you increase by 2 stitches, one on either end. You're going to repeat this little odd even, or straight half double crochet row, increase half double crochet row, up to row 21. 21 is an odd row. So the last row you work will be a row of half double crochet. And I'll see you up at the top of row 21. Please visit our shop and purchase a pattern. It helps support our show, and we'll put a link to our shop in the description box down below. At the end of row 21, you'll have 24 stitches. Remember, row 21 is an odd row, so it's just half double crochet in every single stitch across, but your final stitch count will be 24. So end of row 21, 24 stitches. We can snip our yarn, fasten off, and you can take a moment to weave in your tails. And it doesn't really matter what side of the tree you weave your tails in on, especially if you're using this nice sort of bulky weight yarn, because it'll really just disappear into the stitches that you're weaving them into. Remember not to pull too tight because you don't want to pull your stitches out of alignment, and just double back through a few stitches. We're going to do our trunks now. So you're going to grab your brown yarn or your trunk yarn. I'm going to be holding 2 strands together for my trunk. We're going to start with a slip knot, and across the bottom of our tree we're going to count to the 10th stitch. So here's stitch number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So into the 10th stitch across the bottom from either end, doesn't matter. You're going to join your yarn with a slip stitch chain 1, and into that same stitch you're going to half double crochet. You're going to half double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. So we're working across the last row of our tree. So that's 6 half double crochet stitches all the way across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to chain 1, turn, and you're going to half double crochet in each of those stitches all the way back. That first stitch is sometimes kind of tight. Remember, it might be sort of tugged down the side a little bit. You'll have 6 stitches at the end of row 2. Chain 1, turn, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch across. You'll still have 6 stitches at the end of row 3. We're just single crocheting just to finish things off. So that's 3 rows. That's it for our little trunk. You can snip your yarn or yarns, fasten off, and take a moment to weave in those tails. You want to make 2 identical trees, and then we're going to stitch them together. So you can decide which sides you like facing out. It doesn't really matter. You can pair them up together so that your little trunks match and the sides match. And we're going to cut a nice long length of green yarn. The length of yarn should be a little bit more than 4 times the length of the side of your tree. So measure it out 4 times. Weave it up into your yarn needle, and maybe a little bit extra if you're kind of a loose stitcher. You only need 1 strand of yarn. So if you were double stranding your yarn, you only need 1 strand. And obviously, if you're using thick yarn like me, you only need 1 strand. We're going to attach it right here at the bottom where the trunk meets our tree. We're going to take our needle and pass it through the 2 pairs of stitches, or I should say the pair of stitches right at the base where the trunk meets the tree. And we're going to tie a knot. So leave your tail out, and we're going to tie a knot in our yarn. Don't tie it too tightly, but don't tie it too loose. And double it up, just so you know it's not going to go anywhere. And you can just tuck that end into the tree. Now we're going to whip stitch through each set of stitches all the way along the bottom edge of the tree. Don't pull your stitches too tight, but don't leave them too loose. Remember that you're going to be stuffing this, and you don't want your stuffing coming out. When you get to the corner edge, just whip stitch through that last pair of stitches. Maybe work 2 for good measure. Why not? And now you're going to sew through both sides all the way up, across the top, all the way down the other side, and all the way down the bottom. And we're going to leave our trunk open, conveniently, because that's what we're going to stuff our tree with. And then we're going to stitch up the trunk using brown yarn. So kick back, relax, just keep your 2 sides as evenly matched together as possible. Pause every so often to make sure that you're not missing stitches or that your 2 sides haven't kind of gotten out of whack. And just very gently stitch your way up the side of your tree. You're grabbing loops, pieces of stitches all the way up the side. There's really no rules here, just make sure you're getting both pieces of tree, so both sides, as you stitch. If it looks like you're going to run out of sewing yarn before you're done working around the entire edge of your tree, and I'm almost all the way around, but not quite, no big deal. Just cut yourself some more yarn, hold both the ends together, and knot them together. Take it easy while you're sewing until you get to your knot, and once you do, just tuck the knot into the inside of the tree and keep sewing. Once you've sewn all the way around, make sure that you don't have any big gaps showing. You can kind of open it up with your hand. I like to work 2 stitches in the last set just to kind of make it a little stronger. And then make a knot. So I'm going to run my needle underneath that last loop and create a little knot, making sure that it's nice and tight against the fabric of the tree. There's 2 just to be on the safe side. And then I'm just going to stuff the whole tail into the body of the tree. I don't need to bother weaving it in. And now it's time to stuff our tree, so you can get whatever stuffing you want. I'm going to be using some old fluffy yarns that I won't be using in any other projects, and I've had them kind of sitting around the craft room, not doing much. So this is what I'm going to use. You of course can use pillow stuffing, chopped up t-shirts, socks, whatever you like. Keep in mind that the lighter your stuffing, the lighter your little pillow. The heavier your stuffing, the heavier your pillow will be. If you're going to be using yarn like this, then you just want to take pieces of it, so little light pieces of it, so not the whole ball, and make sure it's fairly loose. And no matter what stuffing you're using, you're going to take little bits at a time, and you're going to start right at the top of your tree, and you're going to make sure with your fingers that you completely fill out the top of that tree. And you're going to keep going little bit at a time all the way down, making sure that you don't have any bulky or kind of lumpy bits to your tree. Try not to overstuff it, but don't make it so lightly stuffed that it just wants to lie flat. This will take you a little while, so put your feet up and get stuffing. Once you've stuffed your tree and it's nice and evenly stuffed all the way around, we're going to sew up the stem or the trunk of our tree. So cut a nice long length of brown yarn. You can start on any side you want, right where the trunk meets the tree. We're going to join our yarn the same way that we did for the tree. So hold back a tail, make a knot, and do it twice. You can tuck the tail into the trunk, and you're going to sew up along one side, just like we did for the tree. So up one side across the bottom, and before you finish up the other side, you're going to stuff the little trunk part. Once you've finished stuffing up your tree trunk, you can finish sewing up the side. If you feel you need a little extra stuffing as you go, feel free to add it before you're done. And just like we did before, I'm going to sew through the same place twice just to finish, to give myself a little finishing stay stitch, and then I'm going to knot off I'm going to do that twice just to make sure that it's nice and tight. Then I'm going to weave my tail in through some stitches and just pull the rest of it into the body of the tree. I'm not going to bother trimming it. No need. So through a few stitches, and then I'm just going to bury the rest of it in the tree. And you can pull it out through a space between stitches, making sure that you go back in the same space that it comes out of. If this is a decorative pillow, you can really stuff it with just about anything you want, but if it's going to be a pillow that you're going to be using and leaning against quite frequently, then I recommend using the pillow stuffing, that polyester fiberfill stuff, or quilt bat, just because it's a little more solid and a little less fluffy, and you're less likely to have bits coming through the spaces between your stitches. But once you're done, just sort of squeeze all of that stuffing into place to make sure you don't have any lumpy bits. And you're all done. And there you go, your very own tree pillow. Whether you make it small, like this little guy, or bigger, like this little guy. Perfect to cuddle with for the coming holiday. We hope you enjoyed today's video, and we will see you soon here on the Jayda InStitches show. Till then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have a great week. Bye everybody!
Hi everyone, this is Mama InStitches. Thank you for watching. Here are a few other videos you might enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can also click the like button and the bell. Thank you, have a wonderful day.